Way with Anoa. The Way with Anoa.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the July 19th edition of The Way with Anoa. I'm your hostess with the mostest. Any Beetlejuice fans out there? Yeah, no? I used to love that cartoon. Anoa J. Changa. I'm so excited to see you this evening. Really happy to talk with you and be here. Be happy, yay, because we're alive. We get to see another day. I know that clown show is on. Don't watch that. Come tell your friends to come over here. Come hang out with me. Come see some good stuff going on over here. I'm really excited tonight. I know I'm always excited for my guests, right? But this is the third week in a row where I get to talk to someone who's not only brilliant, someone who's creative, but someone who's doing really great work in a different medium than what we traditionally, think about in terms of activism, right? Tonight we'll be talking with Meshaun Labrone about his one-man show, Power. Not Power from Stars, even though I heard that had a really good opening this weekend. But Power about Stokely Carmichael. For those of you who may not be aware, this past June, this summer, is the 50th anniversary, not only of just Stokely Carmichael, also known as Kwame Ture, later known as Kwame Ture, using that phrase Black Power, right? I mean, it's a phrase that's been around forever, but he's really like identified and coined that term, right? But it's also, when we think about like kind of that shift, that rise of the Black Power movement, we're talking about 50 years, and there's so much going on right now. You look at the activism that's happening in Cleveland. You look at the gearing up to DC. Tonight, Philly Real Justice, the coalition of Black activists and other supporters had a town hall this evening out in Philly. Can't wait to be in Philly this weekend. So exciting. But, they're gearing up for a day of action next week. Tuesday of the DNC is going to be a Black Power resistance action. It's going to be phenomenal. Wish I had the leave to actually be there. So talking to Meshaun this evening is just like, it's gonna, I mean, I know y'all gonna be motivated. Y'all gonna be inspired. Definitely. I've tweeted it out. I'll tweet it out again. Check out the trailer for the show. I just got goosebumps. I got chills just looking at it. Also, if you're in New York, he's wrapping up in DC and head to New York. I heard the last couple of shows were like sold out, which is awesome, phenomenal. I know I need a new word, but forget about that clown show. Forget about how abysmal and dismaying this election cycle has gotten. Yes, the other side is bad. Yes, they're racist. Yes, yesterday was an absolute cluster. Some words I'm not going to say, but come, let's talk. Let's rap a little bit. So of course I'll talk a little bit about the RNC. So apparently Trump is officially it. He's been confirmed as the nominee. Whatever. Yesterday, his wife number 3, gave a riveting speech. It was so motivational. I was really inspired. She talked about how hard it was growing up, and her word is her bond, and word is bond. I didn't know that was an Eastern European phrase. Like, I'm gonna be honest, besides for hip hop heads, I've never heard a white person use that phrase. Not to say, and I've been honestly asking this question all day, but for me, the dead giveaway in her speech was, your word is your bond, which we've all shortened, in the hood, word is bond. I mean, come on now. If you listen to 90s hip hop, that's just like 80s hip hop, right? That is just like a quintessential phrase, word is bond. But apparently it turns out, Mrs. Trump's potential future FLOTUS, her speech was lifted. Several sections were massaged, were plagiarized. Let's just call it what it is, right? Forget all them euphemisms the Guardian and New York Times are talking about. Let's plagiarize. They plagiarize Michelle Obama. I mean, if her speechwriters are not aware, one, y'all should be fired. Y'all should be fired because if you did that trying to be slick and just pass something off, you should be fired. 2, if you did that to make her look stupid, you should be fired. Talking with a girlfriend of mine earlier today, we're of the opinion that actually they knew exactly what they were doing. They figured the Trumps and other people would not figure out the difference. I really believe there are a lot of people trying to sabotage him. Quite honestly, I don't blame them. If I had the chance to sabotage the man, I probably would do the same thing too. But I just really feel like that to have that woman up there looking like a damn fool was not okay. Now, all the posturing, she did it all herself. They're trying to build her up to be more first lady like. And it's really not working. Apparently, something about her bio, her education, it says she graduated from college, and apparently she did not. They're trying to sell her as more than what she is. And I really think that we have the problem. This is a very huge problem. Talk about 2 issues. One, we have the problem with the fact that it's like it's excuse after excuse for what she did. Oh, everyone plagiarizes in politics with speech writing, blah, blah, blah. It happens. Obama did it. This, that, and the other. What's so fascinating, not so much of the plagiarism, which that's a problem. For those of us in regular work, pretty much everybody else in the regular aspect of life would be in trouble for plagiarizing, for using without, giving credit. I mean, that's what would happen to all of us, right? I just think about when I was in school, for those of you who are academics, I mean, your career would be ruined if you lifted several, apparently that's a Republican thing to do. Ben Carson and a couple of other people have been accused of plagiarizing, right? So, but the issue that the excuses that are provided, because first, allegedly, these are her exact words. She did all this herself. She wrote it. Yeah, I'm not buying that. Not that I'm going to insult the woman's intelligence like a lot of people have. And shame on you, so-called leftist liberals. We are the left goes 1 week. Oh my God, we're the left and people defame us because we're women. And all of a sudden, y'all do not wait to jump on this woman and her intellectualism and her lack of thereof, supposedly, right? Like, you all are just ridiculous. Supposedly we're better than them, but y'all act just like the other side does when you get a chance. I mean, that's human nature to some extent, but at the same time, we kind of need to check the moral superiority at the door. But the excuses provided by, the Republicans and Trump folks, oh, well, they're common words and phrases, or maybe there's similarities because of the backgrounds, which could be. But at the same time, the phrasing and the placement within the speech are very similar. I mean, again, I'm sure if you run it through because there are free plagiarism checks online, I'm sure if you run it through, it's going to be like, ding, 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 plagiarism. But I mean, what bothers me so much is the fact that we see this is not the first time this happens. And especially with the left wants to just get all high and mighty. I mean, you guys take the ideas, words, language of Black and brown people all the time and use it for your own uses without meaningful, respect, without according, due honor to the person who actually comes from. I mean, hell, Hillary Clinton had been copying Bernie Sanders tweets for like weeks. I mean, you'd have, how many memes did you see? The Bernie tweet, then 2 weeks later, the Hillary tweet, or the Bernie tweet, and 3 days later, or they invoke the words. I mean, they misrepresent and misuse images, words, ideas, experiences. Both sides do it. But what's so crazy about the GOP doing it is the fact that they detest the Obamas. They detest Michelle Obama. So to use her words, it's kind of pathological, and it kind of represents them in many ways. The other thing kind of that I wanted to talk about a little bit, just real quick, on social media, Leslie Jones, she's a comedian, actress. I first saw her as one of the newest additions to Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live got pushed into, again, Saturday Night Live would try to do things and they'd have, one Black woman, Maya Rudolph, who's no longer on the show, playing Beyonce and Michelle Obama and everybody else. So they added some two Black actresses, some Black writers and staff. Leslie Jones is one of those. She's also one of the stars of the new Ghostbusters remake. That's a whole nother story that we're not going to talk about because I'm not going to go see it because I don't believe in remakes. but has nothing to do with me being anti-feminist. But anyway, but Leslie Jones has had a tough time in terms of the media and representation, also just getting dogged on Twitter. But she had trouble finding a designer to actually dress her, to provide her with a gown for the premiere, which is kind of ridiculous. She's an actress in a big movie. Why wouldn't you want her to wear your dress? Again, we come into terms of using people and their representation. She's not, she doesn't fit Eurocentric standards of beauty. When people did not understand why we were upset about Zoe Saldana playing Nina Simone, this is kind of it, right? Because we have Black women who have experiences, we have women of color who have experiences that do not fit in traditional standards, Eurocentric standards, and not saying that other people do, but when you have an experience that shapes your career, that shapes your life, prosthesis, etc., can't change that. So what has happened with Miss Jones is she's been attacked on Twitter. Now, a lot of us have been attacked on Twitter, right? A lot of us have tried to report people for harassment. There's a lot of really racial ish that goes on between particularly Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit. And there's a thin line between just blatantly racist, harassing language and so-called freedom of speech. And more often than not, when it comes to people of color, when it comes to women, when it comes to people of, different sexual orientations being harassed, there are a lot of times, and I find this often with women of color, that it's not harassment, it's just freedom of speech. She's been called a monkey, she's been called a dog, she's been called all types of different names. And Twitter support, and there's actually been several people who have massive followings themselves who sorry, my son just came in because apparently it's pouring down rain outside. Life of a mom of my preteen is back. Yeah, so forgive the but we have all these instances of support. It's happened to me, it's happened to Ben, it's happened to so many different people, right? I mean, I'm sure many of you have stories of being harassed on social media and these alleged rules, and the rules are right there and they do nothing about it. And that's what's happening to her. If someone like Leslie Jones cannot get Twitter to respond to the harassment, I mean, how you have to sit there? Why should she have to sit there and endure people calling her monkey? Like, that's just blatantly, if that's not freedom of speech, that violates the harassment. And then you have accounts that egg other accounts on. That's blatant in violation of their. Reddit gets a little bit different, but Facebook and Twitter are very, very bad when it comes to actually enforcing their rules, especially when you're talking about issues of racial commentary and discord. But they'll be real quick if you say something about, well, these white people. I mean, we've seen like the Son of Baldwin account, for example, on Facebook got censored and had stuff taken down that was not harassing anyone. It was not racist. It was expressing a viewpoint. And there's a big difference between when you're talking about censoring content. If people are directly targeting others, that is not per the policies of Facebook and Twitter. That's not freedom of speech. That's violating your policy. You're a private corporation. You have the right to exercise it. So do so. And as users, we need to make sure that Facebook, that Twitter, are actually following through how they're supposed to. So that was, kind of with that. But just thinking about, the Michelle Obama plagiarism thing and the stuff with Leslie Jones, it just got me thinking about how we are used and commodified. And when I'm saying we at this moment, I'm talking about women of color, Black women in particular, for sales, for other people's stories, for gain. Even Hillary Clinton does it, right? She loves to tout out the Black mothers. We get commodified and used in a certain way, but we do not get the same shine, so to speak. We do not get the same support. We do not get the same actual backing. Michelle Obama has been dogged like no other first lady. Hillary Clinton gets dogged, and it's for a very different reason, But Michelle Obama, just her existence, just breathing, she is railed, she is reamed. But it's just like whatever. So when everyone's complaining about the RNC and oh my God, they're so racist and this, that, and the other, there's a lot of stuff that happens, particularly when we look at the Obamas, that gets ignored by the good non-racist Democrats. I mean, if you're going to be silent when racialized stuff is happening, what good are you? I mean, I think Ben said it recently. Republicans, the way they're acting right now, they're the traditional, straight up, card carrying, racists. Like, we blatantly can see, I'm Scott Baio and Antonio Sabato Jr. Y'all need to go back to the 80s where you came from. All right. Like, you need to go back to the Reagan years and not come back ever. Charles is clearly not in charge anymore. But when you look at, people on the Democratic side, we can point and say, oh, we're so much better than them, but at the same time, we actually look at people's policies. We actually look at like who's willing to stand up and do something. The fact that you're not saying the same ignorant issues, those people over there, and yet and still you're doing things like trying to pass Blue Lives Matter laws, or you're supporting, standing with Debbie Wasserman Schultz as she supports, payday loan lenders and other types of oppressive financial regulations that disproportionately affect Black and Latino people. I mean, you may not be shouting the N-word from the rooftop. You may not be adamantly saying those people need to go back, but what are you actually doing to actually fight against, injustice in terms of racial and economic inequality? Like, what are you doing? Because if you're not doing anything and you're just doing a bunch of this, then, I mean, we don't really need you either. So I am really excited for this interview. And, I had a little bit of confusion because I tried to get my own call-in number, trying to be fancy. But we're going to go ahead and continue to use Ben's for now. I was just doing a little bit too much, just doing a little too much. So just trying to make sure, Meshaun has the correct number to call in. But there's a lot of really great stuff going on right now. And I know that a lot of you, particularly if you were however you frame it, a Bernie Sanders supporter, there's a lot of angst still. I mean, see you in Philly. Like it's go time. We are less than a week away from the convention. All the delegates need to be there and everyone needs to be seated. But part of why I think this conversation that we're getting ready to have is so important is because, like, the old saying, like, you never know where you're going if you don't know where you come from. And like, so revisiting, we don't need to recreate the wheel. We have so much rich history, especially when we look at the Black Power movement starting out of all these different youth and student groups, right? I mean, young people really drove a lot of what happened coming out of the 60s. And to some extent, there are lessons to be learned for why things kind of fell off a little bit the way they did. How can we continue forward and not repeat some of the same mistakes of our past? What lessons about passion, drive, and struggle can we learn from the past, right, going forward? I mean, there's just so much to talk about. There's just such good stuff. But when you think about Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture coming out of, student-led movements, right? Coming out of SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and moving forward in the way that he did with his work and his life, it serves as, definitely go Google him and listen to some of his speeches on, I believe they should be on YouTube. Listen to some old, also, here's the thing. Listen to some old Martin Luther King too, because I'm really tired. Because you need to be able to adequately combat people when they try to shut you down and say, "Well, Martin Luther King wouldn't like this." There was a lot of appropriation. People do the same thing with Nelson Mandela. They talk about Nelson Mandela at 90 years old and absolutely disregard radical Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela came out of jail still radical. He might have tempered down a little bit, but I mean, the fact that you came out of jail and within like a year and a half, you're running for president and sending the clerk packing. That's a pretty bad mamma jamma. I mean, just saying. So there, as we talk about going forward, whether you are, working with one of the new organizations that are forming out of this movement, whether you're already with an existing organization and you've already been doing work, whether you are done with presidential electoral politics and you're just focusing on state and local, whether you're just a community worker and voting is just not for you, we need to make sure we figure out how do we fit in, where do we fit in, and how do we continue to engage and build, because these are collective strategies that are necessary to move the needle. We do need people who are going to be engaged in party politics, whether that's inside the Democratic National Committee, the Democratic Party, or whether you're talking about third party politics. If you're an independent, if you're Green Party, we do need people to work hard to help build up our local parties and movements. Like here in Georgia, once I finally get some time cleared up someplace, it'd be really great to talk to the Georgia, Green Party folks, because I know one of the things they're getting up is to look around this opportunity school district nonsense we have coming up here in the next election. So there are these issues that directly affect our lives at the state and local level that we very much need to be aware of and organizing around. Like opportunity school districts here would give the governor, certain access. It's almost similar to the way I've read it from what it's proposed. It's almost similar to the emergency managers they have up in Michigan. I understand what people might say in theory could be good about having such autonomy, but at the same time, we see in practice that there are a lot of issues, particularly when you don't have, actual buy-in and support. So we definitely need to continue to move forward. We definitely need to make sure that we're active and engaged, that we're moving forward, and that we're building. Like, how do we work? Okay, even if you are someone who's progressive and you decide that, okay, I think that working within my local party, building up and taking it over is the right thing to do. I know several folks out in Washington State have done that. If you guys check out Project Sanity, they've talked about it plenty. That is okay. That's fine. But can you work with other people? Can you make sure that you also are with other people that you are, building across that party line? Because there are going to be some things that are going to need creative solutions that are not going to be followed by just following the strict party narratives. Because at the end of the day, these parties are about themselves and about the first and the people second. And it shouldn't be that way. And not to say that everybody within parties, within politics are like that, but a lot. And that's why we got to all continue to be active, engaged, and really trying to push the needle and change the dialogue. Because that's what absolutely matters. We are, told y'all I was having a little technical difficulties earlier, so I'm trying to make sure everything's still A to the okay. But just want to, again, real quick, thank Benjamin Dixon Show. Ben allows me to use his channel and to broadcast. It's pretty awesome. And then also shout out to our senior producer, David Grossman. David runs the controls behind the scene. We have a pretty awesome team here at Progressive Army. And as you all know, I just added my new friend, my sis, Karen. And hopefully we'll get it worked out and start working her in some more too in the rotation. So it's pretty exciting things going on over here. I mean, it's July. We've all been at this, Bernie Sanders revolution stuff for a year now. If you've been involved in Black Lives Matter, Occupy, other movements going on, climate change, activism, you've been at it way longer than that. But we need to start thinking about where are the intersections with all that work, right? How do we work together? How do we build the critical mass necessary to move the needle? Again, to repeat that phrase. Again, with everyone going to Philly next week, People's Convention is on Saturday, 10 to 5 at the Archer Street House. Excuse me. I will be in attendance presenting the racial justice platform. Definitely, if you're in Philly, if you want to have an actual, pre-experience before the convention time, definitely come on out. Progressive Army, Podcast Revolution, Project Sanity, The Way with Anoa, Benjamin Dixon Show, Louisa Project, we will all be providing you round-the-clock coverage. As best we can. We're going to be streaming pretty much all day long, starting Sunday, trying to get up, not just the DNC events. We'll have a couple people who will actually have floor access. Still, I think Ben is still working on that debate with Ron Ukalik and Bakari Sellers and possibly Mark Lamont Hill. We'll see what happens. But if that does actually happen, we'll definitely let you know when that's popping off. But we're going to make sure we're trying to hit up some of the different events. Because again, if you're going to Philly, there's going to be there are events packed Saturday on. There's even some stuff happening this week. Like I mentioned, there's a town hall with Philly Real Justice tonight going on as we speak. And people are really, really about their business. People are about their business. People are about moving this forward. So, Bernie Sanders, whether, these different organizations he's saying he's going to start, that's awesome. And really excited that he's going to support candidates. And it's rumored that he's even going to be heading to Florida to campaign for Tim. But we need to continue moving. I mean, and I think that's one of the big things. Like, I know everyone's like, well, we need a leader. Jill Stein's the leader we need. If that's what you feel, great. But regardless of what central national leader exists, we all need to have, a clear understanding, and we need to develop that of what needs to be done at our local level. Look at the down ballots. Ted Cruz is actually coming here to Georgia to campaign for a state rep who's running for a congressional seat. I think it's the 3rd congressional district of Georgia, if I remember correctly. They're not worried about Trump. They're not happy about Trump. They're letting that ride. They're focusing on making sure they can continue to control Congress. They're focusing on making sure they continue to control these state houses. And we need to be active, engaged, and on point and make sure we can control what we can control. We need to get back seats where we can, or get new seats. You have Green Party for people who are pro-green. You have Green Party. Where are your Green Party candidates at? Do you have Green Party candidates running in your community? Can you run? Is it too late for you to run as a write-in or a Green Party candidate? Is that possible? It's definitely something to look into. What are the next set of elections after this one coming up for your state and local level? Can you help support candidates to do that, to run at those levels? Because even if the Green Party does get what it needs on a national level to participate in debates or to get funding or whatever the case they need, there still isn't the local level and state level support, congressional support for green initiatives to make it through. I mean, we knew this with Bernie. It's the same story applies. We need to make sure that if we're pushing whatever agenda we're pushing, whatever party we're pushing, whatever candidates we're pushing, we need to make sure that they have the support and the backing to do what needs to be done. And that just has to be something that we keep in our wheelhouse no matter what. Brand new Congress is taking suggestions for candidates to run. They're getting ready to start their candidate vetting process. It's really exciting stuff going on. Grassroots Select has joined with, I believe it's the Sanders for President Reddit group and some others, and they formed Political Revolution. So we'll be talking to them coming up. I mean, there's really a lot that is going on. This is not going away. Everyone that thinks it just fall in line and you get with the DNC, yes, Trump bad, RNC is evil and racist, whatever. But why should that be our standard? That should not be our standard. That should not be our baseline. If they're bad, if they're awful, if they're the worst of the worst, why are we accepting the fact that we're, and I say we very loosely, are incrementally better? Not that we're really trying to be the best version of ourselves when I talk about the left, the DNC, left-leaning people in America. But that's the challenge. We should really, that's the screws we should show people. People are just like, okay, well, it's over. Bernie lost, Hillary, da-da-da-da-da. No, seriously though, you should want the best version of life for your communities, for your country, right? Like, we shouldn't just settle for the fact that we're not as bad as those people over there, because not as bad as those people over there, while that may be enough to get you a presidency. I mean, it worked in 2012. We continue to lose state and local elections. We continue to lose congressional elections. We're not going to reclaim the lead in terms of House seats, state level seats, governorships. We're not going to do that by we're better than those people. Because you know what happens? People shut down on you because you're not motivating them. You're not saying anything new. And just because you're saying you're better and you ain't been doing nothing. I mean, we've been voting for you, as Black folks, we've been voting for you for like 50 years now. Okay, you better. You better. But like a Democrat bought us, the criminal industrial complex, and a Republican gave us the Voting Rights Act. So you better, but like, I mean, that's what you say. Proof is in the pudding. Proof is in the pudding. Yeah, so just gonna keep talking for a little bit longer. I know, like I said, had a little bit technical difficulties and mix-ups with phone numbers. So hopefully we will get going very shortly here. But when we talk about, we just need to get behind Hillary Clinton. There are some amongst us who believe that, I think I probably shared a story, like someone who I adore, like her word is bond. I mean, what she has to say, what she believes, she's intelligent, she's dynamic, she's a very accomplished, professor and scholar. And like, I would do anything she said, except for when she called me to say, I think we're going to have to vote for Hillary and work to make sure everyone else votes for her. That's when I had to pause and we had to disagree. I love this. This woman helped raise me. She's like a mother to me. And I had to say no. Because whatever you guys decide to do in the voting booth, whatever you decide to do, I mean, that's between you and your maker or the energy or the force or whatever it is you do or don't believe in. That's between you and you if you don't believe in anything. But I personally believe, regardless of what happens going forward, the Democrats, even if you're going green, people need to be held accountable. How do we hold people accountable? We continue to demand the things that they're saying they're going to do. You know, there was an article today that Hillary Clinton claims that Bernie Sanders, as she's bragging about the most progressive platform, she's bragging about the most progressive platform in Democratic history, but she denies that Bernie Sanders and his team, his delegates, his surrogates pushed her left because she's already been there. We've all watched the videos. We've seen the articles, a lot of things that are concessions that her people, that Debbie's people were not trying to do were really pushed and driven by Keith Ellison, by Cornel West, by the other members that were handpicked by Senator Sanders. These are people who would never sit on a platform committee ever before. So, plagiarism, taking credit for what other people do, that seems to be pretty run of the mill for politicians these days. But we have to hold people accountable. So you're so progressive, you're so this, show us. The proof is in the pudding. Hillary Clinton has committed to overturning Citizens United. She's supposedly going to introduce a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United. The thing about the amendment process is that really takes a long time, right? So it's not like that's going to be some quick and easy fix either, but that's a whole nother story. We need to stay active and engaged and make sure that people follow through with it. Same thing with we have, oh my God, you need to trust President Obama because he knows what he's doing. Have you seen Patrick Murphy in Florida? He's a train wreck. He is a train wreck. Old boy who's running against him, whose name I absolutely could not remember at the moment. As soon as my mind just went blank. But, Patrick Murphy's a train wreck. And he has been endorsed by the president. And it's just like, there was an article yesterday about how, Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton are trying really, really hard to save the Democratic establishment. But the problem is, at what cost? At what cost are you going to save the establishment? And what message are you really sending to the American people? Because who are you working for? Who are you working for? You're working for your special interests and your pet projects and pet friends, or are you working for the people? And again, regardless of who you're supporting and what you're going for, whoever gets in that office, whoever gets in those congressional seats, they work for us once they're there. You know what I'm saying? It is nothing to send letters, emails, postcards. We need to flood people's offices. Are you addressing this issue? I saw this bill. We need to set up people have book clubs. Let's set up, bill or legislative coffee chats or something, right? Keep track of the issues that matter to us and what's going on. There's so many things that flew under the radar the past few years, and people are just now like, oh my God, did you know this happened? Yeah, I knew that happened. Where was y'all at? That's no diss to anyone, because I know we all get really busy, but somehow we got to have a buddy system to accountability and staying involved and being active and engaged. Like somehow we have to continue to make sure that, the wonderful people that we found over the past 12 to 15 months stay active and engaged. And I know it's hard. It is hard. Not saying that you got to continue, dedicating 15 to 40 hours a week, but we still need to figure out what system, what level of engagement can we maintain and sustain, because that is how we have high levels of engagement and things start to change, but we don't maintain that engagement long enough to really achieve sustainable goals. We started having Brown versus Board of Education has been 62 years. We still have schools now. I just saw that there is a piece of legislation going through the House, I believe. Democrats have there's legislation. I mean, they're on break now, but this is before the break. It was a Think Progress article, and they're talking about how they're trying to make sure that all schools are desegregated in the country. Brown versus Board of Education, again, was 62 years ago, and we're still trying to make sure schools are desegregated in the country. That is a problem. These are issues that require us to be continuously involved. Again, I understand that we all can't maintain severely high levels of engagement, but that's why you have me and Ben and Project Sanity and Nick and the Louisa Project. You got so many people out there really doing this work, really trying to make sure that we provide you with information, we provide you with insight. One of these days, maybe I'll get around to writing a handbook or something. But, we need you. We need you. And like I keep telling you, y'all are powerful. Yes, Bernie raised all this money and Bernie did what no one ever could do. And do you know why Bernie did all that? Because of you. Yes, people tease digital activists, people tease people who are on Facebook and Twitter, but all those money bombs and emails and Facebook posts and tweets and retweeting and dropping article links and commenting on articles and getting people to the right people to I have people who hit me up like, okay, I ran into this reporter. I'm not really good at interviews, but I really think you would be good. That stuff, while maybe it's not the hugest thing, and I know I've gotten on digital organizing before and said we need to actually get on the ground. We need a combination because that really did make a huge difference. And that you guys we're his best resource. No matter what anyone else says, we were. Because that was a bunch of manpower, a bunch of woman power, a bunch of non-binary gender power hours, where we gave it our all and were able to make sure that we were active and engaged and did what needed to be done. And together, we made it happen. Hello. Okay.
Make sure that
Hello?
Hello, Meshaun?
Sorry, I think. Oh, sorry. I think
Hello?
I got the wrong number. Okay. Bye. No, sorry, I got the wrong number, I think. Bye.
Okay, well, it's the wrong number. How does that happen with the number like the one that Ben has? Anyway, so back to if I remember by, I know. It's okay because I'm gonna still get this interview for you and it's gonna be awesome and it's my fault. So don't worry about it. I'm gonna get it up. I'm gonna get it recorded and get it up if this does not happen in the next 15 minutes. But just like I said, I mean, you guys didn't want to sit here and necessarily listen to me like rap to you, but I'm gonna kick it a little. I'm in a good mood tonight. I was not in a good mood earlier today. I was kind of like, my job, whatever. But we gotta do what we gotta do to make it happen and do what we really want to do, which is this. I love talking to you guys. But when I was driving home, I mean, some of you guys saw on Twitter last night, I was asking you guys like, which rapper do you prefer? Or, I was like Method Man versus what was it? Method Man, Ghostface Killer, or RZA, Chef. But Raekwon. Or which cartoon was your favorite? Because sometimes I really think that we need to lighten it up. People say self-care. No, sometimes you just gotta laugh and have fun. Like it really is okay. But today, coming home from work, I was really excited because as soon as I got in the car, like I was really like, when I was getting off work. It's like as soon as I get in my car and turn on the radio, smile. Scarface and Tupac was on. I love that song. Not just because it tells you to smile, but like it is just like, this song. And that video is so wild because the video came out right after Tupac had passed, basically, right? So it was kind of, surreal and people didn't really want to believe it. But that song always just sticks with me so much, and it definitely always brightens my mood. And then like it was like that song, and then Slick Rick's Hey Young World came on, and then it was De La Soul's Buddy. And Buddy, I love the 90s, the big ensemble songs and things like that. Like that was pretty awesome. De La Soul's Buddy and Tribe Called Quest Scenario are two of my all-time favorite songs because you get to hear a little bit from everybody, and if you're familiar with Scenario, that's where Busta kind of just like, bam. Yeah, I'm a Busta Rhymes fan. Love Busta Rhymes, fabulous. We were having a discussion earlier about who's been in the game the best, what coast, what city for the past 15 years. But why does that matter? That matters because sometimes all this really heavy, I know that clown show is going on all week. I know it's frustrating, aggravating. We can't let those people win, but it's not just about letting those people win. We also got to take care of ourselves. We got to have a good sense of humor about ourselves. We got to have a good way of relating to other people. Right? Because if we're so focused on we just need to beat them, when your focus is on beating someone else or being better than someone else, what do you really have? Like, what is your personality all about? who are you really? And where do you really stand? So we need to take a time out sometimes and reevaluate and assess and see where are we, who are we, and what are we doing? Because this whole, well, they're a mess. Did you see that crap show? Like they're a mess. Then they're doing this to help us lower our standards. So we're willing to accept less than what we're actually worth. We're willing to accept less than they're trying to wear us down. You know, Steve Irwin used to be like, I'm wearing you down. I'm wearing you down. Yeah, you know, you guys, you know me with my pop culture references, but we can't let that happen because that's happened for too long. Oh, George Bush is so awful. He was, you know, it was a bit of a time with him as president. But at the same time, we began to see the rise of certain movements, again, a resurgence. We saw a resurgence of the anti-war movement. By the time you're coming out of his term and going into, during that time, we see the rise of the BDS movement. By the time you're leaving George Bush and going into Obama, we're seeing the rise of Occupy and other movements like that. Now, we've seen the rise of Black Lives Matter and other groups pushing for racial justice. Now, don't get it twisted. It's not that there hasn't been this work going on all the time. We just haven't seen the same synergy and critical mass of people working around these different issues at any one time. Over the last several years, we've seen the rise of, environmental movements and stuff. So how do we keep that energy going? I mean, you're not going to be able to sustain it on this high level of activism forever. But, movements ebb and flow. But how do we keep things going and moving it forward so that we can actually have real systemic sustainable change and not just cute little soundbite tweets or sometimes really stupid tweets that say things like, trust between people of color and cops will help us end systemic racism. I'm sorry. I'm not accepting this crap from Hillary Clinton. She is going to get it every single day, all day. And if you have people of color out there who are just like, no, because she's better than Trump, she needs to be pushed because it's very clear. And President Obama, just because you're a person of color, just because you're Black does not mean that you have a very good understanding or grasp on what it takes to address racial issues in America. That doesn't mean anything. And he has shown that time and time again over the last several years. And that's particularly so now as we have him writing letters, op-eds of support to express support for police officers. Y'all do know that the fourth cop in the series of Freddie Gray's trials was acquitted yesterday, and we have our Black president reaffirming his support and love and admiration for cops. So here's the problem we have with the system that we have right now. If we accept the regular Democratic line of thinking, we're better than the Republicans, so just get in line, don't worry about the other stuff. We just lay down our arms and nothing changes. Nothing changes. Trump didn't make all this happen. This has been in America. This is insidious. It is deeply rooted in a sickness that was born into the creation of this country at inception. That's just real. Does that mean that I think everybody's evil who don't look like me? No, of course not. But we have real, deeply rooted systemic issues, whether it's on income, race, gender, class, sexuality, ethnic origin, you can go down the whole long list and there's all the intersections between them and stuff. But we actually have real issues that need to be addressed that have been on the back burner far too long. But the gays got marriage equality. Okay, so I know that, Democrats, mainstream Democrats will let you know, oh my God, this is a great feat and we did so much and don't worry about it because that's good enough. Not everybody's getting married, one. Two, you still can be terminated without cause just for sexual orientation in many states. You can be put out of your house. In some of these states, they're trying to pass legislation to say that you can be denied like actual care, like emergency care even. We have a lot of work still to do. When we're talking about Black Lives Matter, we're talking about racial justice issues, not just even in terms of cop accountability. We're talking about desegregating schools. Flint. Has anybody talked about Flint lately? Does anybody know what's going on in Flint right now? Is the water okay? Have people had has there been any restitution? Like what's going on up in Flint? What's going on in Michigan, period? We have all these emergency managers. Detroit schools had mold and the teachers had to go on strike. Like what is Chicago? Has anybody looked at what's going on in Chicago lately? I mean, Philly, Atlanta, we can go on and on. You got the scandal going on out west on the West Coast in California with the cops and the underage prostitute. And I mean, There's so much so wrong. And when you look at a lot of these major metropolitan areas, these cities, we have Democratic leaders on the city level and on the state, local, county level making very questionable decisions that we would expect to see from the right. So that any blue will do, just get in line. It's okay because we got to beat them. We can do more than one thing. You know, if your thing is, okay, we need to beat them, we all need to get, okay, that's fine. That's what you got to do. But I'm still going to hold you accountable. Because if you think you're going to just wield this power and do whatever you want because you're better than them, you got another thing coming. And that's the attitude that we need to take. Even if you're someone who believes that you need to do this, you need to vote for Hillary Clinton to beat Donald Trump, or you need to vote for X Democrat on the local level because you need to beat whatever Republican, you need to be prepared to hold those people to task. Put their feet to the fire. You know, I live in a city with a black mayor who's a Democrat, who is praised by Republican leaders for his handling of black protesters. That should scare you. When Southern white Republicans are praising a black man for how he handles other black people, you should be concerned. You should start asking questions. I'm serious. You really should. Like, you know, when life hands you lemons, you do a Beyonce and you make you some lemonade, right? So, you know, y'all just been sitting here talking to me or listening to me talk just off the dome. Yes. Hello?
Hello?
Hi.
Oh, you can hear me.
I can hear you. How are you?
Hello, Anoa. This is Umar from Brooklyn. You know, I think you know
Umar.
I'm from Brooklyn.
What's going on?
Yeah. Okay. Good commentary on the show. Sorry your interview didn't go as planned.
It's okay. Technical difficulties, got numbers crossed, but I'm still going to get this interview and get it up on the channel for y'all one way or another. So what's going on?
See, now, you know, I think the very, very first time I called Ben's show last year, sometime it was I was pointing out that a lot of the problems as I see for progressives of every side, aside from taking stances that seem to be against the progressive idea. You know, like the atheists will take stances against feminism, and the reason and the rationale they use seem to be the exact reasons they take stance against religion. Yet they're against feminists for doing it, but they're not. But they're all for the whole atheism thing and religion. But my point was that I tend to see that the one thing the RNC, and I always use the Tea Party especially because they did what we need to do, is they find a very direct, very clear, very simple message, and they push it and push it and push it. Whereas progressives have a message and a long explanation. You know, it's kind of like listening to someone in my particular family talk. We're making perfect sense, but we drone on, and you can watch people falling asleep. And the American public, even the Bernie supporters, even the Jill Stein supporters, the people who are interested in other things, who know something's wrong, but they don't get the overcomplication of the message. And I really haven't seen that change as time goes on. And I still think that, there has to be, it's not so much, I'm not in total agreement in intersectionality, because I feel that my fellow white progressives as a whole are not getting the message that the way you're speaking to people of color is a little demeaning. And I'm seeing it change, but too often it's like, well, we have the answer for your movement. And that overall vibe has not changed as I see it. Now, like I said, I'm seeing it change in some ways, but overall, you know, but irregardless of that, there has to be a way to simplify the message. Yes, we need to do everything. And I'm glad to hear you. I'm serious. I'm seriously glad to hear you say something positive about social media, because that drives me a little nuts sometimes. I'm like, tweeting isn't enough. But tweeting is basically how Donald Trump just beat every other Republican candidate. Yeah, and nobody's appreciating it.
I mean, definitely need a both and. We need to utilize multiple strategies like tweeting, Facebook, Reddit. All these things are tools. Tumblr, Instagram, Snapchat. I mean, social media is definitely a tool with more and more people getting access. The only reason why I've been kind of down on it in the past has been particularly when we thought about thinking like here in the South, how you do have the huge divide in terms of access to social media or who's actually plugged in. You got to make sure the people you're trying to reach are actually plugged into the resources you're tapping into, right? But I do think that a lot was accomplished through a excessive, the huge social media push. But I do agree with the other thing you said, Umar, and thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate it always. But the other thing about how we need to have a coordinated, concerted Black progressive movement. Not just, one focus on particular specific issues, but we need to have a broader, and there are people having these conversations. And I'm not going to say that means it's not like the Malcolm X movie, like, no, you can't, like the scene in Malcolm X where it's like, no, you can't join us. But at the same time, there is a definite need for us to have space that is pro-Black, that is Black leadership, Black run, and where we can clearly lay out the issues and agendas as we're seeing them. Again, like intersectionality gets to be a real interesting concept, particularly as we've seen it misused by the left so much, even in its just this election cycle. But we do need to continue having these conversations. And I know I say that every week, but because it's true, we need to continue the dialogue. We need to continue the conversation. This is something we can't just have it drop off because we get some agreement or concession from some, supposed higher authority or whatever. Like, we need to be willing to stay the course and push forward. Okay, we'll see what happens at the convention next week. Bernie's speaking on Monday. But more likely than not, I'm not saying that, because crazier things have happened, but more likely than not, Hillary Clinton will be the nominee next week. They're saying she's going to be the least popular person to speak, but whatever. What are we doing? I know there are a lot of people who've already gone green. There are people who probably will go green after the fact. That's great. But what is the next step and what are you doing? How are you helping the Greens build locally where you are, right? Is there another movement? There are other, parties. They're smaller and less well known, but they have really radical, awesome politics and people committed to doing the work and doing the change. We're going to start sharing that information. Progressive Army, we're looking at having conversations with people and seeing what can we do? How can we continue to be a voice of the movement? Not the voice of the movement, because there are several voices, right? We all have voices out here, and that's what I think is just so great. Definitely tune in. Coming up next is the Benjamin Dixon Show. My big brother Ben, I'm sure he got something fabulous for you. Tomorrow there'll be a new episode of the Louisa Project, and Thursday, of course, 7 to 9 p.m. Join Niz and Richard and the rest of the gang with Project Sanity. If you don't get to listen to me live on Tuesday nights, I am now on iTunes, Stitcher, Player FM, and Google Play, I believe. Pretty sweet. And apparently my pretty awesome producer, man behind the scenes, JP, got me hooked up with my own Patreon account. So I'll get that information out to you because your girl still has this antiquated equipment over here. I mean, the best thing about me is this microphone. But I appreciate you guys so much for hanging in there and always rolling with the punches. Definitely share, like, subscribe to the channel. Help us get to 11,000 before this weekend. I mean, I remember Ben was saying he wanted to get to 10,000 by the convention, and now we're looking at almost 11,000. How awesome is that? Definitely like and subscribe. Donate to the Benjamin Dixon Show, the Patreon account. The link is in the description for the video. I mean, Ben has awesome content, awesome guests, great commentary, and he has a pretty sweet studio he broadcasts from nightly. So I'm going to leave y'all with a quote from Stokely Carmichael. There is a higher law than the law of government. That's the law of conscience. Use it. I'm out. See y'all next week. Peace.
The Way with Anoa. The Way with Anoa.